Welcome to Vibrational Revelations. I'm Elena.
I'm Alejandro.
And it's truly an honor for us to reveal to you the frequencies of classical composers today. Of course, there's so many more we want to reveal, but we decided to limit it to 7 composers today. And as you see, every week, every journey of every character we reveal, I'm sure the characters that you will hear us talk about today or reveal their frequency somehow have played a role in your life. Whether you've gone to watch a concert, right? Listen to this music on your radio, or maybe you've gone to a ballet and watched Swan Lake, Nutcracker, whatever it might be. Or you were forced as a child to play piano. But somehow these incredible characters have made a major impact on history, on humanity, and every one of us. So I think more than ever, as we're diving deep into history, historical figures and frequencies of those people, it puts everything into perspective of why Alejandro and I always talk about that we cannot be judging anyone at all, because every journey is absolutely unique and beautiful. Everyone plays an important role in this lifetime, and everyone contributes with their beautiful divine spark somehow. Mm-hmm. So this is really to honor every being that we are revealing to you and always have been revealing. Yes. Right?
And we can describe and explain that which is fact, but when we want to change it, to fit our own perspective, that's when we begin to judge. Yes.
Yes.
So that has to be out of the equation.
Yes.
Yeah, in order to feel our own divine essence, right? Because judgment distorts that flow.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it is through those revelations that we do. Of course, we cannot dive into the historical lifetime readings that we do privately. And that would give so much more insight into what's been truly going on. But I think that through the frequencies that we reveal, it will give you a deep insight. And then, of course, it's beautiful after that to go and research. Actually, a girlfriend of mine had no idea that we're doing the revelations today. And she sent me a link this weekend. She said, you have to watch this movie. It's about Friedrich Chopin on Amazon. And it's called Desire for Love. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm so excited because it's interesting how the frequency actually of the title is tied in to the relationships of Friedrich Chopin. So we'll start with Friedrich Chopin. I want to make sure that all of you silence your microphones because we can hear the feedback at the moment.
Mm-hmm. We just got a new device that whenever we hear that someone hasn't turned their video off, we can zap you.
Hold on. So we might have to, okay. Please make sure that you're muted because it's actually creating.
You don't want to be zapped.
Zap, like last week, we had to actually remove someone from our live stream with Lada because it was creating a major interference. So anyway, thank you so much.
Yes.
Without further ado, Friedrich Chopin. Yes. Every one of those characters have such an incredible life.
Of course, I'm kidding about the device, please.
Okay. Friedrich Chopin, incarnated at the frequency of 200, frequency of courage. He was born at the frequency of 100, fear, and his overall frequency was 200. So he was able to transcend his birth frequency. He walked his hero's journey, right? Health, Friedrich Chopin viewed through the lens of 55, which is apathy. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, that he was a Polish composer and virtuoso pianist. He viewed finances through the frequency of 200, courage. His creativity was at the frequency of 750, the frequency of enlightenment. Relationships he viewed through the frequency of 125, desire. This is why I said actually the film that was sent to us this weekend, which we haven't seen, the title of it is Desire for Love. And it's interesting because his relationships are the desire frequency, right? This unfulfilled desire, 125. Personal growth, Friedrich Chopin viewed through the lens of courage, 200. Philanthropy he viewed through the frequency of 125, desire. And his intuition was at the frequency of 700, enlightenment. And this is something that you will see throughout today's revelations, something that you also saw as a pattern in the famous painters and artists 2 weeks ago in one of our episodes. You'll see the frequencies of creativity and intuition coming into play. He enjoyed his divine role, 82%. His ego was at 88%, and he was ruled mostly 91% by the inferior ego. He was in the now, 83%. He was in his integrity, 89%. Self-awareness, 81%. Clarity, 81%. He was in alignment with his divine purpose, 96%. And alignment with personal purpose, 90%. So you could see that his goals of what he wanted to achieve in life were slightly less than the role that he came here to play at a higher, almost full alignment. His compassion was at 94%. And I said he's in the now 83%. Now, for today, we decided to measure frequencies of some of the masterpieces, right? The compositions that they've created. So for Friedrich Chopin, we read the frequency of Nocturne number 2, and its vibrational frequency was at 700, or is at 700, the frequency of enlightenment. So when you guys listen to the music, you also can connect to that frequency.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Beautiful. No wonder, one of my kids, Mark, he always says to me, Mom, after work, you need to listen to classical music. So when I come home, he turns on the classical music. He's like, this is the music that heals. I thought,
yes, and it is recommended to play classical music for babies, right? Newborns.
Yes. Absolutely. Okay, Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, a Russian composer during the Romantic period. He was incarnated at the frequency of 540, joy. He was born at the frequency of 350, which is acceptance. And his overall frequency was 500, love. He viewed health through the lens of fear, 100. Finances through the frequency of 200, courage. His creativity was at the frequency of 900, which is the frequency of enlightenment. He viewed relationships through the frequency of reason, 400. Personal growth through the frequency of 400, reason. Philanthropy, also reason, 450. And his intuition is at the frequency of 700, the frequency of enlightenment. Again, those two important aspects that you see, and you'll see throughout the episode today, is the high frequency, enlightened frequency of creativity and philanthropy. And intuition. He enjoyed his role 87% of the time. He was in his ego 90%, and mostly 58% of it was superior. He was in the now 97%. His integrity was 100%. Self-awareness 97%. Clarity 100%. He was in full alignment with his divine and personal purpose at 100%. His compassion was at 99%. And I thought, well, let's measure the frequency of Waltz of the Flowers, right? So Waltz of the Flowers, the frequency of that is 700, the frequency of enlightenment. Antonio Vivaldi, Italian composer during the Baroque period. He was also a violinist virtuoso. He was born in Venice, Italy. His overall frequency is 540, joy. He incarnated at the frequency of joy, 540, and he was born at the frequency of 500, love. He viewed his health through the frequency of 525. Finances through the frequency of 400. Reason. Creativity for Vivaldi, 1000. Incredible. Relationships he viewed through the frequency of 350. Acceptance. Personal growth he viewed through the frequency of 500. Love. Philanthropy, 310, which is the frequency of willingness. Intuition he viewed through the lens of 850. Again, enlightenment. Joy, he enjoyed his role, 93%. He was 87% in his ego, and he was mostly ruled by his inferior ego at 89%. He was in the now, 92%. Integrity, 89%. Self-awareness, 95%. Clarity, 93%. He was in full alignment with his divine and personal purpose at 100%. He was in his compassion, 92%. And here's the pieces of music that we wrote down for you guys. I think you'll find it fascinating. Of course, the most famous Four Seasons. So we broke down the frequencies of each part, right? Winter, spring, summer, and autumn, in case you might have been curious about it. So summer, the frequency of the summer piece from Four Seasons vibrates at the frequency of 850.
Summer 700.
Oh, okay, sorry, spring. Spring is 850. Summer is 700. Autumn, 750. And winter, 625. I thought you guys might find this fascinating.
Mm-hmm,
So if you like listening to Vivaldi, it's perfect. Okay, Johann Strauss II. He was the youngest of the Austrian composer, Johann Strauss. He wrote over 500 waltzes. And I'm sure you guys have heard his waltzes. All I can share is when I was 14 years old, I was in Austria with my family. And I remember going to Schönbrunn Park in Vienna, Austria. And this is one of the most memorable moments of my life when in the park, there was an orchestra and they were playing Strauss waltzes. Blue Danube was one of them. And I just thought, actually, we measured the frequency of that. So we'll give that to you as soon as I'm done revealing the frequencies of Johann Strauss II. And Andre Rieu does an incredible job, or he's done, I don't know if you guys have been to his concert, reviving the beautiful waltzes, right, from Johann Strauss.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Amazing.
He comes to Tampa often.
He does, yeah. He was here for every year, almost every year. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Johann Strauss II incarnated at the frequency of 650, frequency of peace. He was born at the frequency of 250, neutrality, and his overall frequency was 540, which is the frequency of joy. No wonder his music brings joy to me. Every time I hear a waltz, yes, it makes me happy. Mm-hmm. Health, he viewed through the frequency of 200, courage. Finances, through the frequency of 250, which is the frequency of neutrality. Creativity is at 1000. Relationships, 400. Personal growth, 600. Philanthropy, 540. Joy. Intuition, 700. Enlightenment. He enjoyed playing his role 93% of the time. He was in his ego 82%, and he was ruled most of the time by his inferior ego at 62%. He was in the now 94%. He was in his integrity 97%. Self-awareness 94%. Clarity 95%. He was aligned with his divine purpose at 98%. And with his personal purpose, 100%. His compassion was at 91%. And here's the Blue Danube Waltz. Its overall frequency is 750. So enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Now, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, prolific and influential Austrian composer of the classical period. His vibrational frequency in utero was 500, and he was born at the frequency of 250. So he went from the low frequency down to the neutrality frequency. His overall vibrational frequency, 125, which is the level of desire. The aspect of health he viewed through the lens of grief at 75. The aspect of finances, he viewed finances through the lens of desire at 125. Creativity, he viewed through a lens of enlightenment at 900. They all have that in common, right? Very high numbers when it comes to creativity.
Incredible, yes.
Relationships, he was at 125, the level of desire. Personal growth, at the level of fear, 100. Philanthropy, the level of acceptance at 350. Intuition at 900, the level of enlightenment. That's wonderful. When it comes to how much he enjoyed the role that he played, he was at 56%. How much he paid attention to the ego or in the ego is at 87%. And out of the 87%, 90% represents the inferior version of the ego. How much time he spent in the present moment, or he was in the present moment, in the now, 83%. His integrity was at 89%. His self-awareness, 70%. His clarity, 71%. His alignment with divine purpose, 77%. And as we mentioned this earlier, people that tend to vibrate lower than the vibrational frequency they incarnated at tend to drift away from being in full alignment with their divine purpose. Right? That was the case with Mozart. His alignment with his personal purpose is at 91%. When it comes to compassion, he was at 88%. Wonderful. Now we measured one of his famous pieces, Symphony number 40 in G minor, and vibrates at the frequency of 750. Which is the level of enlightenment, right?
I mean, it's so beautiful, right? Like their creativity is translated so beautifully into their creation, into those frequencies. And that was a beautiful thing for us to see, and happy to share it with you.
Right. There's something was revealed for the artists, right?
For the artists, yes, but we didn't measure frequencies of their paintings.
But the creativity aspect was very high. Yes, extremely high.
Yes.
Now, Beethoven, he incarnated at the frequency of 400, which is reason, intellect. He was born at the frequency of 110, so definitely he was greatly impacted by whatever his mother was experiencing at the time, right? While he was in utero. So went from the level of reason down to the level of fear. That's how he was born. His overall vibrational frequency, 250, which is the level of neutrality. It's a great thing. He was able to transcend the frequency of his birth, right? Now, when it comes to the aspect of health, he was at 75. Again, similar to Mozart. That is the level of grief. A lot of resistance there. No? When it comes to the aspect of finances, he was at 100, the level of fear. Also a lot of resistance there. Creativity, he was at 1,000. That's the maximum for the human experience, at least for this reality.
And he was deaf at some point, composing.
That's just amazing, right? He was just channeling. That is divine intelligence to its purest form there is. Relationships, he was at 250, which is the level of neutrality. Personal growth, also at 250. Philanthropy, 250, the level of neutrality again. And intuition at 540. That is the level of joy, right? So he definitely recognized his intuitive abilities and also trusted what was coming through him, and paired with his 1000 in creativity. It's just
Remarkable.
yes, definitely remarkable. That's wonderful.
Mm.
He applied that to his career, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to indie joy, how much he enjoyed the role that he played as Beethoven, he was at 60%. So he was not enjoying it much, apparently. When it comes to in the ego, how much he paid attention to the ego, he was at 98%. And out of the 98%, the inferior version of the ego represented 94% of that 98%, right? So that was overpowering.
Mm.
The superior only represented 6%. Now, when it comes to being in the present moment, he was 94%. That's amazing. And this is really has a lot to do with his creativity being at 1000 and his intuition at 540, right? And since that is linked to what he was doing for a living, that's why he's a high number when it comes to being in the present moment, right? Because that's what he was doing daily, on a daily basis. He was fully connected there. When it comes to integrity, his integrity was at 97%. His self-awareness, 85%. His clarity, 86%. His alignment with divine purpose was at 92%. And again, he incarnated at 400. His overall vibrational frequency was 250. So I feel that has a lot to do with how aligned you are with your divine purpose as well, right? A few other factors we have to take into consideration, but that really is a key player there. When it comes to his alignment with his personal purpose, he was at 81%. His compassion at 73%. And then we read the vibrational frequency of one of his famous pieces, Moonlight Sonata, and vibrated at 850, which is wonderful.
You know, I actually posted, I think, a documentary about him in our Facebook group. I found. So for those of you that want to watch something about Beethoven, you can Google it, of course, on YouTube. But he was extremely abused as a child. His father was alcoholic, so he had a lot of trauma. And it, of course, made sense when we read that and processed grief in his health area, right? I'm surprised that his relationships didn't come up as a bigger imbalance, because he was always craving to be the father and to find the love of his life. He wanted to get married, and he never could fulfill that. So that also explains why
the one who adopted.
He was fighting in the courts, for his nephew. But it also made sense why he's so out of alignment with his personal purpose, because he never felt that he achieved what he desired for him as a human being on this planet, right? Where from a divine perspective, of course, he was so much closer to his divine alignment.
Yes, and having a child was a big one for him, right?
Yes.
And also his joy, only at 60%.
Yes.
With all that he was able to accomplish, right?
Right.
Now, when it comes to Johann Sebastian Bach, another German composer and musician, he incarnated at the frequency of 400. He was born at the frequency of 200, so dropped from the level of reason down to the level of courage, right? His overall frequency, 250, which is the level of neutrality. His health, he viewed health through the lens of neutrality at 250. Finances, through the lens of reason, high intellect. Creativity, 850, another high number. That's the lens of enlightenment, right? It was in the flow. Relationships at 110, which is the level of fear. personal growth at 250, the level of neutrality, philanthropy at 200, level of courage, intuition at 500, the level of love. So he was in the flow there, and I think most of them have, yes, very good numbers when it comes to creativity and intuition as well, right? Excellent. When it comes to how much he enjoyed the role that he played as Johann Sebastian Bach, he enjoyed it 82%, at 82%. That's great. When it comes to the ego, in the ego, how much he paid attention to the ego, that was at 96%. Almost similar to Beethoven. Beethoven was a 98%. And out of the 96% in the ego, 96% represented the inferior version of the ego for Johann Sebastian Bach. And for Beethoven also, they have that in common as well, because for Beethoven was the inferior version of the ego was at 94% out of the 98%. So the inferior was the one that turn this off, that overpowered there, took control of their decision-making process. When it comes to being in the present moment and the now, for Johann Sebastian Bach is at 87%, his integrity at 96%, his self-awareness 96%, his clarity 97%, his alignment with divine purpose is at 93%, and his alignment with his personal purpose is at 92%. Now, when it comes to his compassion, he was at 83%. And then we read the vibrational frequency, again, one of his famous pieces, Toccata and Fugue, or how will you say it?
Yeah.
Fugue,
in D minor.
Toccata and Fugue in D minor at 400, which is the level of reason, high intellect.
There's so many other pieces, of course, we can measure frequencies for. I just wanted to briefly touch upon Mozart.
Yes.
Because Mozart had a lot of addictive patterns, right? Alcoholism, right? So it makes sense that he was embodying that 125 frequency because it's the frequency for most of the addicts that we've seen in all of our readings.
Yeah, alcohol really destroyed him. Right? No one wanted to help him anymore.
They couldn't. He didn't want to.
Right. He wasn't open to receive help. He was he was homeless, right? For a while.
I don't remember.
On the streets, drunk.
Maybe. I'll have to go back
Maybe
and revisit.
I'm confusing him with Luis Miguel or Julio Iglesias.
No.
I'm kidding. But yes, he also has 125s in his aspect of finances and relationships.
Yeah.
125.
So anyway, as you guys can see, we cannot judge any of those frequencies because every single frequency matters. And especially those incredible human beings that we just shared with you that brought this immense amount of gorgeous music into our lives. For some of us, it's listening to this music daily. For others, it's sometimes. So whatever inspires you, I'm sure you guys through listening, maybe your kids have been playing this music. Maybe you have been playing this music. I know that Moonlight Sonata has been a piece that all of my kids played.
Yes.
So beautiful.
Yes.
So thank you so much. We'll take now all of your questions.
Yes.
All right. So let's open up. Oh, we forgot to share the slides, but that's all right. I forgot to do that today. I was just completely engulfed in the classical music world. You forgot to remind me.
I forgot to remind you.
Normally I'm good.
Everything looked so good that I thought I didn't feel anything was missing.
Okay.
But yes, you can do it now if you like.
Well, I'll have to look it up. Okay, let's see. Vivaldi's overall frequency was 540. You know, I think I also read that Vivaldi was a Catholic priest, which I had no idea until afterwards we started researching.
Roman Catholic priest,
Yeah.
right?
Well, he was a Venetian, but I don't know if it was Roman. I do feel Tchaikovsky so deep, Natalie wrote. His music stuck an accord in me. I think every composer we talked about, I feel them deeply as well. Yes, their music just inspires and heals and clears. Yvette said, love that you also tested the music. Yes. All right, let's see. The most beautiful compositions were composed during that time. Incredible creativity, yes. Natalie wrote, the universe had great messengers at that time. Yes. But I would say at this moment in time, we also have different geniuses in our world, just sharing something new and different, right? In a different way. Matilda wrote, he died very poor with debts because he was addicted to gambling. That's right. That's what Mozart, that's what happened. So that's correct. Can you share Blue Danube Waltz? I missed that one. 750 was the frequency for that waltz. Interesting that 6 out of 7 had most of their ego in the inferior when they had such talents. The inferior is where they do not think they're good enough, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. It's actually something that we see in most human beings, that it's the part that makes us perfectionists. It's the part that makes us doubt ourselves and push through the ceilings.
We tend to become our own worst self-critics, right?
Yes.
Where nothing is good enough.
Oh, please do not. So they're asking for you to explain the difference between superior and inferior ego.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Alejandro will explain it.
Superior and inferior. Okay, something else was coming to mind I wanted to share, but didn't come through completely. But just the superior version of the ego is that voice that is pretty much, we have labeled ego, those thoughts that bring resistance, right? That tend to pull us out of the present moment and activate the self-defensive mechanism, giving us the illusion of keeping us safe. But those thoughts are based on history, right? And that history has knowledge in it. So it's good to, hear it because it has knowledge, but not allow it to stop us from listening to our inner voice. We don't want to get lost in the knowledge, right? Not allowing divine intelligence to flow or recognize our inner wisdom. And those thoughts that are telling us that we're not good enough, right? Due to past experiences, they're telling us that it doesn't matter how we do something, how much energy we put into it, at the end, we're going to feel that it's not good enough, right? It's never going to be good enough. So that is the inferior version of the ego. The superior version of the ego is the opposite. That those thoughts that are telling us that there's nothing else to be learned. We know it all. No one can teach us anything. And we're better than everyone else. Mm. Yes. And then those that have low compassion, very low compassion numbers, and their ego is at 100%.
Superior.
And the overall ego is at 100%. And then out of the 100%, 100% of that is driven by the superior version of the ego. More than likely will have narcissistic tendencies, egotistic, narcissistic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Julie wrote, I would think that a frequency of desire would translate into wonderful music, embracing the human condition. I think like for Mozart, in his case, what translated into his music was not the 125 frequency, but his creativity frequency, which was, what was it for him? 900. Mm-hmm. And his intuition, paired with his intuition. So that's where he channeled most of his energy,
Mhm.
right? And the desire was more of his human experience,
Right.
whereas the other one came from an absolutely divine place.
Right. The desire is a frequency based on or determined by his perspective of life, right?
Jeanette wrote, thank you. I'm very touched most about Mozart because I played his music from childhood. His music was and is so comforting. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I think every one of them touches me deeply. Like I have tears coming up. Does Vivaldi's self-awareness? Yes, I will give that to you. 95%. Inferior creates drive. Yes, it can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, inferior ego. Nigel wrote, I'm new here, so forgive me if I'm asking something you have covered many times before. But without giving away your secret magic, how do you go about measuring the vibration of composition, please? Same way we would read anything else. Just know, first of all, this is a great question. Just keep in mind, everything is energy. And energy speaks through frequencies and vibrations, right? Everything resonates, is in resonance. It's in this constant state of motion. So with the intent of knowing what you're measuring, you can measure anything.
Mm-hmm.
So because frequencies, what is it? Information. So we're just pulling information from the field.
Mm-hmm. Inferior creates drive, no? Well, so does superior. It all depends what drives you.
Right. For some people, yes, that's
so
it.
You could be driven by inferior or superior.
Yes.
But the narcissistic person will be driven by superior.
Yes. Shanti says, it seems that their creativity numbers had maybe the biggest effect on the frequency of their music. Yes. You know, to me, I always describe creativity as creation, or what I say, inspiration
in action.
In action. So yes, it translates so beautifully into the frequencies. Their creation does, right? Because it's whatever inspires them the most. And you can see this so beautifully in their creativity. So absolutely. Valentina.
And they trusted their intuition as well, right?
Yes. Valentina wrote, thank you for helping me see what my heart resonates with through those wonderful beings, through this amazing work. Yes, thank you. You know, for us, every being that we read is important. And this is something that we hope you take away with you every single episode that you watch. And you can see how we cannot judge these frequencies because every person comes here with their own struggles, with their own beautiful gifts.
And all for the sake of the experience.
Yes. Yes. Natalie wrote, thank you so much, pointing out that we are not here to judge, but to observe and learn. We've finally heard what we long ago felt, what our intuition told us. Oh, that's beautiful. Yes, thank you. It's great. It's true.
Yes.
Margaret says, do you think having a negative ego is helpful? What is negative?
My negative ego is helpful.
What do you mean by negative? Like not having ego or having inferior ego or superior ego can be viewed? So,
well,
like
depends of what you
define as
negative, right? Because like I said, ego is just, we have labeled ego, those thoughts that bring resistance most of the time, right? Where we tend to get lost in the knowledge that those thoughts are bringing, right? Which are based on history, rather your history or someone else's history that you decided to acquire as your own, rather through a conversation, reading a book, or watching TV. And in the thought since it has knowledge, it really is, it could be positive or negative. It all depends how you use it, how you apply it to your journey.
Yes.
Right?
Mathilda says, is it more difficult for you to measure people's frequency who have passed away? It's the same because, you know, if you think about it, past, present, and future is all happening in the now. everything is recorded in the divine field or the biofield. So think of the biofield as the record keeper of experiences, events, situations, and emotions. So therefore, it's a matter of just retrieving information, whether somebody's in a physical plane or non-physical plane, right? So that's really the only difference. But otherwise, there's really no difference because everything is energy.
Yes.
Everything is information.
And the only difference between the non-physical and the physical is the physical.
Oh, you know what? It reminds me, which Alejandro still has to watch it. Maybe we'll watch it at some point. Oh, yes,
the movie. That's right.
I told you about this movie. Okay, if you guys haven't seen it, it's made by Pixar on Disney Plus. My 17-year-old Mark, who likes to listen to classical music. I keep bringing him up in here. One day you'll have to meet him.
Yes.
2 days ago at night, he's like, Mom, we have to watch this movie. He's been asking me for a couple of months to watch the movie. The movie is called Soul, S-O-U-L. You guys have to see it. It's an incredible journey of somebody that crosses over and really what the meaning of life is. And actually, it's everything that we talk about in here, which is joy. The meaning of life is joy.
Exactly.
It's a wonderful message.
The purpose of life is joy.
Yes.
And as you noticed or learned, as we have, that doesn't matter how low or high you vibrate. What matters is how much you're enjoying the role that you're playing in this lifetime, right? So everyone is really pursuing that to enjoy the role to the fullest level possible.
Yes. So Natalie wrote, we're pulling the information and we break it down to pieces to analyze. We know that the light will break through the clouds. Amazing, simply amazing. Yes.
Beautiful.
Margaret meant the inferior ego. So it's now we're scrolling down to look.
Yes. And we've learned as well that the ego is all this thoughts to bring resistance, like I said, everything that I already mentioned. It really contributes to creating contrast, right? So which is detrimental for the human experience. And it's not going away. The idea is not to remove it completely or kill the ego. It's just learn to dance with it and not allow those thoughts that bring resistance to take over and dictate what the next step in your life is or should be.
Yes.
And follow more your inner voice, your inner wisdom.
Valentina wrote, I'm having this wonderful experience of each person on this webinar as a note in a symphony. That's so beautiful. You know what? This is how perhaps we should see life and every human being as a beautiful musical note. And all of us play an incredibly gorgeous symphony together. Yes. Yvette, have you seen people significantly increase their creativity frequency over time? We've seen people increase intuition, relationships, health. Creativity, we haven't tracked enough to give you enough of that insight.
But anything is possible if you focus your attention towards it, right? And learn to release the resistance of whatever resistance it is that you're experiencing. Yeah. And that resistance is due to how you learned and trained yourself to relate, with that aspect. So if you recognize what is it that what emotion is triggering or creating that resistance, then you can reprogram that and release that resistance and therefore enhance the flow of consciousness so you can experience more magical moments, right?
Yes, we have another question. Where does the ego have to be in order for you to say that the person has learned to dance with the ego?
Wherever it is that you feel you're following your inner wisdom and then no longer attached to the preconceived ideas, and then you feel that you have detached from the labels that you trained yourself to identify with. So what number? It changes for everyone. I used to take 4 sugars in my coffee.
Document me.
You know, my father would say, "Are you crazy? Just put 2." You know, and my mother would say, "Just put 1." And then my cousin wouldn't put any sugar. So really it's based on what you want to experience and how you want to feel. I wouldn't say there's a one formula fits all, but by focusing on enjoying the role that you're playing, right? And doing the things that inspire you the most, the things that bring you joy, the things when you are experiencing what is, or they take you to the flow zone, right? Yes, when you're on the flow, that's it.
So I have a couple of questions for you. We do. So next week we're thinking about doing Q&A. If there are questions you would like for us to answer, make sure that you guys also post them in the community, because what we'll do is we'll print them out and then we'll just go through them next week.